Hi, Morty Huzarski is on.
Hi, Morty.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sean.
Good evening.
Hello, Sean.
How are you? You were on early
I'm
walk.
good. Yeah, luckily I'm in office today. So.
Oh, Morty, that's you at the 646 number ending in 01?
Sorry, I needed to unmute myself. Hi, I needed to unmute myself. I think so. I'm dialed in through the WebEx number, so I'm not sure
Okay.
what came up.
Okay. Just wanted to see who's,
Yeah,
sorry,
but
I'm
I'm
multitasking
here.
too. Groovy. Ed Powell is here, and I did check in with Al Matthew earlier today, and I know he's planning on being here. So if, oh, where is Florencia? I'll check in on her too.
I just texted her, so hopefully she'll
Okay.
respond. I know that she's planning on coming.
There she is.
Hey, Florencia.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. I don't know. I've been having a little difficulties, technical difficulties, but okay. We're here.
Good evening, Francia. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Gil. How are you
Hello,
feeling?
hello.
Hi, Deborah. Hi, Sean. Hi, Indy.
Hey. Being that Ed is here first, should we have Ed present before Al Matthew?
Yeah, I'm in
Okay.
agreement with them.
Are you ready to present, Ed?
Sure.
Okay. Should we wait a few more minutes for more people, or do you think we should start now?
I think we are, oops, hang on, let me make sure. We are recording, so if anybody misses the beginning, they can always review it on our website.
Okay, perfect. So we have our esteemed Ed Powell of the 70th Precinct Community Council to report on the Community Council Legislative Breakfast. Ed?
Oh, okay. Well, I like that you said esteemed. You know, I really feel good. Yeah, well, before I jump into the breakfast, I just want to give everybody a little feel of what precinct community councils are and like that. You know, in New York City, the precinct community councils were first formally established back in 1943. I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
Today, there are a total of 85 New York Police Department precinct councils throughout the 5 boroughs. They were created to foster cooperation and bridge the gap between local residents and police officers and encourage community involvement in public safety. Uh, these councils like served as a conduit for information and they address quality of life issues very much like what we do now. Uh, in fact, the organization and operating procedures of precinct community councils, which were instituted in New York City in 1968, state that the goals of precinct councils is to encourage cooperation among local police departments, residents, and businesses. Here in the 7-0, um, we added to that list of stakeholders our local public officials, places of worship, community organizations, safety patrols, and so forth. Um, so uh, some of our more specific objectives in the 7-0 are to like maintain contact between the precinct commander and the community, to encourage community involvement in public safety and quality of life issues, to promote awareness of law enforcement efforts within our communities, to enhance police community relations by providing a forum for real and constructive dialogue between all of our stakeholders, including our law enforcement officials. In addition, we provide our communities with a convenient way to access useful information and updates from our local public officials. Our precinct council normally meets on the last Wednesday of each month, except during our summer break, the months of June, July, and August. And our next meeting is going to be this Wednesday, April 29th, at Adapt Community Network, directly across the street from the precinct at 7:30 p.m. You can always check the community board's website for information about our meetings and so forth. And I encourage people who have not come to our meetings, come and check it out, become a member. You can easily become a member, just attend 3 meetings within a year's time. They don't have to be consecutive, but 3 meetings within a year's time, and boom, you're a voting member. So looking forward to seeing everyone on April 29th at Adapt Community Network, 7:30 p.m. On April 17th, the 70th Precinct Community Council, in conjunction with Community Board 14, it held a legislative breakfast at Adapt Community Network, outside on the roof terrace, I think they call it. Uh, Very, very nice. It was a beautiful day, sunny, and an amazing turnout of community leaders, representatives of elected officials. And we had a treat in that we had a visit from the Democratic county leader, Assembly Member Rodney's Bichot Hermelin, who came, excuse me, who came and just really excited everyone there with her presence and her enthusiasm, and you know uh, she just really bought into what we were talking about, and pledged to use whatever influence that she has to help us accomplish the goal of relocating the precinct house. um, the just a second, I'm sorry. Now, I was a member of Community Board 14. I became a member around 1992, something like that, more than 30 years ago. And um, you know, I served as a member. I served as chair of the Youth Services Committee for many years. I served on the executive committee uh, uh, and became was elected vice chair under um, our beloved Alvin Burke. Uh, may he rest in power and peace. And that was a pleasure serving under Alvin for many years. And ultimately, I was elected chair and served 2 terms as chair. All of that time, Community Board 14 has had in its capital budget a request as top priority to have the precinct relocated. Um, Actually, a location was found on Avenue H and Ocean Avenue back in 2013. That somehow fell through. And since that time, the city has taken very little action, unfortunately, to find a new location. We need everybody on this call to reach out to their local elected officials and let them know that we need them to support this, to have this put back. Uh, now that this is budget season, you know, this is a time to really let the officials know that we need to get a site search into the fiscal year 2027 budget. Let them know that you support it and you need them to support it. Okay, back to the breakfast. We started the day with a tour of the precinct house, and you know it's an it's a very old building. It's not uh, up to par and hasn't been for many years. Years ago, we used to hold our meetings in the basement, and during our tour, I noticed that the basement has been recently painted, and it doesn't look bad. But let me tell you, back then, the reason we had to get out of the basement was because of water leaks during the meeting, and also during the meeting we had to compete with big cockroaches who were trying to sabotage our meeting. So we moved to different locations around the district, and ultimately to United Cerebral Palsy building across the street, which ultimately became Adapt Community Network. So we saw the basement, we saw the old time cells, we saw the new cells, we saw the community affairs offices and different floors of the precinct house, and it's time for, to relocate. It's time to get out of that building. Aside from the state of the building, the location is far from ideal because it's a narrow, very narrow street, and we share that space with Adapt Community Network, which has like school buses coming and picking up the individuals who utilize their space, picking them up and taking them wherever, bringing them back and blocking up the street. Sometimes it's a long line of school buses all the way down that entire block, making it at best very difficult for police cars to get in and out of the block. Now, there's no reason why that should be happening in New York City in 2026. There's no reason for that. So it's time that, you know, elected officials, whoever, everybody who can make this happen, it's time that they got on board and got it going. And it's really going to be up to us. You know, if we don't make noise, it'll go for another 30 years until the building is falling down. So we urgently need you to reach out to your elected officials, urge them to support this project. I know Sean has written letters to elected officials. I've written letters from the precinct council. Florencia has helped me tremendously in getting the word out to the elected officials. We're going to be meeting with, our local officials and talking with them, but we need you also to reach out and tell other people, tell your friends, tell other board members to reach out to the elected officials and let them know we need them to support this project. Okay.
Question.
Thank you. I think I've said enough. So I'm going to stop there, and I think you have another person on the agenda to speak. I don't want to go into their time, so I'm going to hold it right there. Thank you for listening.
Thank
Cindy
you
has
so
a
much. I
question
have
for
a
you.
question for you. Is there any way that we could say, is there any proof that the fact that these buses are blocking the block, is there any data to show that it affects the time of officers to get to crimes at different times, that it affects their call time and negatively, so that, we could try to push for officials to move faster, because it's affecting us, it's affecting the officers, and it's affecting people who are in trouble. Is there any?
Thank you for that question, Hendy. I don't know that that anything has been documented yet, but that's certainly something that I think we should look into. Sean, were you about to say something?
Yeah, but less optimistic than you. I mean, those arguments have been made, and actually we've worked with the Department of Transportation to look into other remedies to address not only the concerns about police officers showing up at the precinct and any potential for like mass deployment if they had to get out of the precinct and somewhere quickly. And it just really, we just go round and round in circles and get no relief. And even to the extent that in 2018, NYPD put $1 million into an assessment to determine whether or not they could build a new precinct house on the same location, like do a tear down and a rebuild. And it was determined that even though they had the specs to do a new precinct house, the location was so problematic that it wouldn't be worth doing it. And the traffic considerations were noted in, the list of what's problematic about the current location. So one of the things we talked about, and I don't know that it is a good idea, but I think it's time that NYPD and the Office of Management and Budget and Department of City Planning consider some creative ideas. One of them is to buy out Adapt Community Network because they could relocate if they had the financial ability. Whereas the precinct has to be in the precinct, right? So that is one idea that we floated. Now, I don't know, they might just still say, well, if we're going to build a new precinct house, we would want to relocate. But another impediment to relocating is that there aren't very many big lots in the community where you could site a 40,000 square foot is what they said they need precinct house. So we've also asked them to adjust what they think is necessary for a new precinct house because the current one I think is 18,000. So why you need 40 if you're somehow
Right.
managing an 18? So the idea is to maybe ask them to reconsider it like a 30,000 or, I don't know if there's more space for a 30 than a 40, but whatever it is they do, they need to do something because they're just sort of shrugging. Like, I don't know, this one's hard. This is a toughie. Let's go build a precinct house in the 4-0.
So I actually think that your idea is a good one because if they relocated, then they wouldn't have all the busing and then they'd have more room. They'd have the whole block. And, so they'd be able to go in and out as they please.
Not only that, but we could possibly acquire that building across the street as part of the 7-0, or tear it down and build a new building. Whatever would work.
I think that sounds like a great plan because if we don't have a place. If you don't have a lot to buy, then we can talk in circles as much as you want. But this is the actual lot that we have, so rather take something that we have and start moving on it.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and also it is rather congested over there, and there is other buildings at the end of the block, right? Sean and Ed, there's what is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 schools in the area and there's a
Yeah,
DOB permit for a new school at, I
right.
forget that
Yeah.
address, 180 something Lawrence, and
Yeah.
I mean, it just is, and schools are as of right development, so you can't say no to a school, not that you'd want to, except it just adds to the chaos.
And one good thing that came out of the legislative breakfast, besides it being there, we hosting the legislative breakfast, was that while Assembly Member Rodney Bashad Harmelin was being interviewed, that there was a bus and there was someone walking, and they were yelling at the bus driver that why don't you run them over? So it was, she at least got to see, and it's on camera, it's taped, that there is a legitimate problem with transportation. It's very difficult. And as Sean knows, and many folks who sometimes don't want to go there because there is no parking, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And getting out, there are times when you're blocked because of the buses,
Yes.
because the clients have wheelchairs and walkers, and you can't rush them, and then they have to get on elevators as well, so that's another thing, so it slows the process of them getting in and out.
So we've taken this
So
at a few angles, right? There's just the fact that, this is a capital need and it's been recognized as such and it's been in the budget, then fell out the budget and needs to go back in the budget. There's, and then there's the, a level of sympathy you have for people who have to show up at a workplace that is, doesn't even come close to touching OSHA standards. So you've got a labor point of view. And then you've got, and not everybody is so keen on, building a new house for NYPD. It's not everybody's top priority. It's not everybody's favorite agency. But where I've seen some cracks in that sort of more reticent point of view regarding PD is just the human service argument that the people who live in the Joseph Belsky house, which is I think 78 units for people who are multiply handicapped, should have a better environment. And when they go out in the wheelchairs that are necessary for them getting around, they shouldn't have to, sort of do a slalom through police cars and buses and such. So, yeah, and then there's also just another practical budget argument that if you're continuing some of the repairs in the precinct house, they have to do over and over and over and over again. The heat goes out, you fix it. The heat goes out, you fix it. At some point, we're just throwing taxpayer money into a sinking ship. And so as responsible taxpayers, we should want a new precinct house so that we're not continuing to do that.
And the flooding, Sean, and the mold, and the summers with no air conditioning.
Or the winter, this very, very cold winter with no
Yes.
heat.
Yeah.
And just this past winter, there were cars that were frozen because the pipes burst. So the undercarriage was actually frozen. And what can you do? You'd only damage your car. You can't, they were trying to hammer it out, but it's
Yeah, and
really,
this is just anecdotal. I don't have proof, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it because we are just talking about how bad things are. Um, um, FDNY doesn't even do inspections over there anymore because it fails and it doesn't get fixed, and so it's just like so beyond the pale. So there's some potential that this is a fire hazard too, and that's dangerous to everybody in proximity to the firehouse. I mean, to the police house, police precinct.
This should be illegal then.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we should fight it on that ground in itself. That's a point that we could get it done. It's legal.
Maybe.
Maybe if we brought it to the news outlets,
Yeah,
bring it to
I
the
think
news
that's an
outlets,
excellent idea.
and
Pepper
also
probably has an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know how off this might be. Since the officers are affected by this, have anybody thought about going to the PBA? Because they can have some input on, because it's the safetyness of their members, right?
Yeah, and I
So
don't know
maybe
if there's
we go
any
that route.
I don't know if there's an overall effort to do that. I think sometimes that, like that whole rank and file culture is you don't rat out your, there was even some concern about the legislative breakfast and, what the PC was going to do for making NYPD look bad. But I know that there have been individual, like PBA has been there to assist on individual claims, like when there was flooding and people lost so police officers lost all of their like vests and equipment and things that they have to pay out of, they get like an allowance for it, and all of that got damaged, and they were being told they were going to have to take it out of their personal pockets, and PBA did intervene there and they got like a new allowance. This happened not only at that building but the one up by the parade ground too. So I only know about those individual discrete cases. I don't know if there's been an overall like labor protest that we shouldn't have to work in a moldy fire trap.
maybe that's what has to happen.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe,
that's
except they're all
what
afraid they'll get
get them
transferred.
involved.
Yeah,
Get them
yeah.
involved.
that part.
Because really and
So where,
truly, your members should be working. They have a right to work in a safe environment.
Well, of course, but as Sean mentioned, getting getting the officers to come forward and say, well, I'll stand up with you. I'll complain. This has been going on. Remember, this has been going on for over 30 years.
yeah.
Amazing.
And yeah, I don't know of one police officer who publicly complained. I've had officers talk to me. I mean, numerous officers talk to me personally, but I don't know if of anyone who has gone to their superiors or made a complaint with any agency or union or anything like that.
They'd probably get in trouble.
And I think too that they're concerned about their jobs, promotions. Where do they go? from
Well,
there.
of course, of
Yeah,
course.
so
So I don't
it's
know
a
if that's the best.
catch-22 situation.
Well,
Yeah,
let's test drive it on a few people who might be, candid about what they think it would do, for or against them. It sort of like defeats the purpose of having a union if you if you can't be a whistleblower.
How about the retired officers? Can we get them to attest to it?
Maybe.
possibly. Yeah. I honestly, I don't, I don't, I don't see that working very well because, um, first of all, police, the police officers are a family, and you, you don't hurt your own family.
They're not hurt. They're trying to help their family.
I
Here's,
know. Look,
Ed,
I know. I
Ed,
know that, and you know that.
it's for
But
everyone involved that in the precinct. It's just not a select few, right? So if they do reach out to nobody have done it before, so you don't know what is possible until you try it, right?
mhm,
So even the commanding officer he's working in a dump, right? You don't know what other health issues might come up behind the environment that they're working in. So I don't see where there should be a problem. It's not like you're, talking bad about uh, leadership. It's the environment that the leadership itself is involved in.
I look. You're preaching to the choir. I agree with you. I'm on board with that. But I know what my experience has been over these 30 plus years of working with police officers. And not I shouldn't say police officers, working with the NYPD, with the department. It's not easy, um, that if you think it's a good idea to try and see if any officers would be willing to talk about this, or you know be helpful,
No. I'm
fine.
not saying for the officers. Maybe the leadership needs to go and say, listen, this place is a dump. We need to clean it up.
That it's going to be more difficult to get leadership. It's going to be much more difficult.
yes, yes,
Wow.
it
Well, I
was.
guess they're stuck in they dump,
Yeah, well,
and
well,
then
I'm gonna,
and then to think about it, those officers they don't really have the greatest relationship with the communities. So now to go out and ask the community to speak up on their behalf, it's like you're talking to a wall.
yeah, I hear you, Deborah. And like I said, I think I'm gonna reach out to a few people who I think might be more outspoken than others and just see what they think. And so, we can ask that question to people who can answer it more insightfully. And also, like, kind of to your point, one of the things that's frustrated me is that you shouldn't have a community board fighting harder for members of the service than its own department. And so to not have the commissioner on board here, like, I don't even know what she knows. And to not have NYPD Capital advocating for this is really where I think they're falling down. But I think the labor argument is a really interesting one. So,
Quick,
I mean,
quick
they'd rather,
question. Sorry.
otherwise they're going to be sit pretty for a lawsuit, a class action, when everybody has some sort of lung issue because they've been breathing mold and asbestos for X number of years.
Terrible.
Sorry, Florencia.
I wanted to ask you, Sean, do you think the commissioner would penalize or, you know, would she have a reason if they spoke up about it?
I don't know her.
Oh, okay.
I know that this concern has been expressed, so I try to
Oh,
be
okay.
I try to be respectful of other people's fears because I don't have enough of my own. It's easy for me to be cavalier about things. There's no consequence. Al Matthews here.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Ed, Ed,
Oh,
thank you
you.
for everything you're doing and like keeping hope alive. And I was just actually reviewing I had to review an old public hearing that we had when they first opened the Duryea Place shelter, and you were chairing that public hearing. So like
Yeah.
your chairmanship is fresh on my mind and always warm in my heart.
You are darling. Thank you all.
Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
we'll keep
Thank
on
you.
moving on.
Thanks,
Thank,
Ed. Good seeing you.
Good seeing
Thank you for
you.
coming on, and thank you for all the information.
thank you,
Yes,
thank
very
you.
helpful.
And so now we have Mr. Al Matthew from Drum, Brownsville think tank, who is here. So it's your turn. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Pardon my lateness. Actually trying to juggle between two different meetings. I'm in another meeting now as well. CMS meeting, crisis management, with several other organizations, going over different things we're planning to do for the summer. We're seeing an uptake in a lot of shootings in different communities.
Yeah.
Squeeze, Brooklyn. Actually, I'm outside. I partner noise in the background. I had to step out of that meeting to join this one. But yes, my name is Al Matthew. I'm the founder of Brownsville Think Tank Matters / Drum. Brownsville Think Tank Matters is the overall organization. It's in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn. And Drum office is located in East Flatbush on Flatbush Avenue and Glenwood Road. And doing the public safety work as well as other things. We do OSHA training. We do security trainings with sponsored classes, and we have a mobile trauma unit, which is we call it the MTU, and we work with families that's traumatized or people that's in the community that's traumatized by gun violence, stabbings, or whatever issues may occur in community. We also work in several schools throughout the years, and glad to be in a meeting right now.
Question. Hi. When did you get the mobile trauma unit?
Well, we had the mobile trauma unit. That was the first thing that connected us with the mayor's office.
Oh, really?
Yes, before we were awarded to be a kill violence site.
Hmm.
And the first awarded kill violence site was when we came to East Flatbush in 2021. And we had the mobile trauma unit since 2019. So that's always been the arm of services and community since 2019. And the mobile trauma unit, each borough has one. Only each borough has a mobile trauma unit under the CMS contract, and Brownsville Think Tank Matters is the one for Brooklyn, overall for Brooklyn.
Wow. And to think I've been out with you guys several times and I wasn't aware.
Oh, apologize.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's my oversight, but it's good to know. So,
You're welcome.
in what areas are you seeing an uptick right now?
Well, in Brooklyn, we just had a 16-year-old. I don't know if any of you may have seen it on the news that was shot in a grocery store on New Lots in Ashford, the last stop on the 3 train. It happened when he got out of school, and unfortunately, he lost his life. We are
Oh, wow.
currently working with the family right now. So today and yesterday, they had a visual yesterday, his friends set up. We were helping, being supportive with that. Uh, we found out that the young man lives in the Brownsville section in Brooklyn. He lives in the Van Dyke houses. The mother is requesting a transfer from that housing development. So we're in the process of helping her with the transfer. So it's just been a lot, based around that. And then a 7-month-old that was shot
Oh, yeah.
early this month
Oh, yeah.
in Bushwick. So we've been supportive through the mobile trauma unit. And also we have what is called the solution therapist that works within our office. And that's a contract that we have with DYCD. So um, also help people do therapy. And if it's something that's a little more sensitive than what we can handle, we'll help support them find somebody clinical to help them move forward.
Oh, wow. My sincere condolences to the families. We had one on Flatbush. Um, we just did a
Yeah, it was a
response.
one on Flatbush in church. I think it was a shooting
Yes.
about a week or two ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so we just did a shooting response on the 23rd. It happened on the 14th, and we did one on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
23rd.
exactly. It happened on the
And
14th.
I wanna say thank you to Gail, one of our community board members who was there. Unfortunately, Hindi, my co-chair, couldn't make it this time. She's always juggling because she works when we're doing the outreach. So she comes and then she goes back to work. She'll take her lunch break. But this time, because of the time, she wasn't able to join us. But thank you, Gail, for joining us. And,
Oh, my pleasure. I'm wired.
thank you. So, am I the only, and does anyone else have questions for Mr.
I
Massey?
have a question, actually,
Yeah.
if you could describe a little more, it sounds like there's and there's a question in the chat that I'll read in a second, but sort of
Yes.
talk about the I don't know if it's a wraparound service, but I know that you focus on prevention. You described a little bit, support for victim and victim families. And then I think too, there is interaction with people who've been on the, who've perpetrated the violence to work with them through the process that they have to go through next, and then people who've been formerly incarcerated as well, I believe. So if you could kind of talk about that arc of services and what we as a community board, because we do support you in our budget requests, but other ways in which community can support your efforts, I think that would be helpful for us all to know.
Yeah, so you go to the part about people coming from being formerly incarcerated. We do try to navigate them through different trainings that we have and information about jobs that may come through our office to keep them on the recidivism side of not going back and looking at that revolving door concept. When youth that's maybe got gang affiliated, we try to work with them, what they consider being high risk in community. As far as bad actors, we'll work with them and try to get them through some training. If they're underage, under 18, that's not able to go through our trainings to move forward with either OSHA or security, we see if they're in school, try to get them back acclimated back in school. And then still try to work with them through some type of mentoring concept to let them know that, what they're doing in the community is detrimental to themselves and their neighbors.
Thank you. Sean, were you going to, did you read? Let me see.
Yeah, I can read the,
Thank you.
Osman Nuzzi has asked what exactly the mobile trauma unit provides: crisis response, counseling, case management, outreach, violence response, disaster response, and is it a 24/7 service or limited shifts?
Well, all of the above except for the 24-hour services. We're not paid. Unfortunately, all of CMS sites are not paid. We only paid to do 8 hours. We're working on it for several years to see if we can get more funding so we can hire more people so it could be a 24-hour situation in all 5 boroughs.
Have you put in for grants for additional funding or reached out to the local elected officials for a Reso C money?
Well, there's other sites that has been focusing on that, and there's been conversations about that through Adams administration and now with the new administration coming in. And that's one of the things that we're sitting talking about in the meeting right now. There's several things as far as putting different committees together under the umbrella of the crisis management system within the 5 boroughs. So we'll all be in alliance of what we do in each borough. So it don't look like whatever Brooklyn is doing is different from what's happening in Queens. So those are the things that we're trying to put together now. As I'm talking to y'all. So again, I just stepped out the meeting. I left my program manager inside to capture what I'm missing so I can come out here and be here with y'all.
Should we let you go back so you can go ask for money?
No, it's not. We're not in the meeting asking for money from them. We're CMS is, as organizations, we're coming together to be more formal of the work that we do. So it can be recorded back to the mayor's office how we're structuring things to be more of one union.
What can we do to assist you in getting you more funds in early? Well, I mean, as a community board.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you said how can you?
Yeah.
Just getting me in the right places to sit down and explain what's going on and how it'll be beneficial, not just for the organization to have more money, but to provide more jobs for people in community, and hopefully it'll help change the atmosphere and community as far as young individuals, different people that's coming home from being incarcerated, and then different levels of support that people can see that there's other opportunities out there.
Well, cool. We'll get you to the nonprofit roundtable for some of that, the networking and the elected officials, and making sure everybody knows the good work you're doing, and build those bridges for support.
Yes, thank you.
I had two questions. So I wanted to know how, like, what are your success? What's the rate of success for getting jobs for, formerly incarcerated youth or people? And then, okay, if you can answer that one, and then I'll ask the other.
Well, a lot of times it's not that much information about jobs, but trainings, yes. Helping them get OSHA, and moving them forward into the construction industry and security. Those things have happened. Um, I live- those situations has happened. Getting them the not just OSHA, but youth. We have videographer training where we have a gentleman by the name of Sean Walsh, and we'll pay. We'll get as a consultant, we'll get them to come in. We'll pay them to train videography. We'll give the youth stipends as they go through that course. And then hopefully they'll pursue with that a career, as a career. We also had a consultant come in that do airbrush painting and train youth to do that. So these are different trades that a youth can learn, and they can be able to make some money on it, as not using loosely using this word as a hustle, where they ain't have to be in the streets trying to juggle getting into drugs or selling drugs, to make money. So
So, in
that's
other words, to keep them on the right track and keep them out of trouble. So,
yes.
and the
And
other question,
also
go ahead.
to add on, all right, my brother. Another thing to add on is that myself, I'm a licensed master barber, and I would like to get back to trying to teach some youth. I used to do it in the past, how to cut hair and give them like soft skills, and where they can start cutting their friends' hair or cutting people in the neighborhood's hair in their home or whatever, until they can move up to a level of working inside a barbershop and getting their apprentice license. So that's another thing that I'm trying to get back to.
That sounds like
That's
a
a good one.
yeah.
Is there a way like maybe we could add like mechanic and stuff like that? Like,
Yes, if you know some mechanics that would like to, come and use that as some time to help train some people. Yes, whatever training there is, the more the merrier.
I can ask my mechanic. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have young people that may be interested in working on cars or
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a good like profession, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. And like Barbara and like I explained to young people, this is a trade that you could take with you anywhere. If you move out of New York and move to South Carolina, Baltimore, or Boston, this is something that no one can take away from you.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I wanted to, in terms of not having 24 hours, so you and I have met up at various times of the morning, at 3 in the morning, and those hours of the morning. So you guys aren't paid for that when you have to go out.
Well, I'm paid for it, but I'm somewhat obligated. Like yesterday, I had 2 staff members working, and they're off. We're off. Normally, the staff is off Sunday and Monday. Myself,
Mhm.
it's like 7 days, 6 days a week. Um, but if I come out that time of the night and I request a staff member to help and assist me with a situation that where's a shooting or something happened tragic, I would have to pay them for coming out.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you have to pay out of your pocket.
Yeah, I would have to pay them for them during, but not out of pocket, but I would take it out of the budget. But it's not
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
I know you go beyond, above and beyond, and you've gone and I know you have a catchment area, but you've helped us out in areas beyond that. And sometimes we ask for you specifically because we know you and your group has a great touch with people. So we really appreciate that you do what you do and then some.
Thank you.
True. And I thank you, Al, for always
Thank you. You're
doing
welcome.
what
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
you
much.
and
Thank
Sean as well.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Matthew, or are we releasing him to go back to the other meeting?
Yes.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for making it work.
You're welcome. Thank you
Thanks, Al.
for the invitation. You're welcome.
Good
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
evening.
And
You
you.
too.
All right.
Do we have anything else that we want to discuss? Any new business?
Sean, pardon me. Sean, maybe going back to the precinct situation, right? Maybe you can reach out to Henry Garrido, because I know he has a lot more members there in the precincts. And maybe
Who is he?
he's the president of the DC 37.
Okay.
We only have one member in the precincts, and that's the person that does the payroll and the administrative staff.
Yeah.
So maybe if you reach out to Henry, like write him a letter and bring it to his attention, because his members are suffering through it too, and then
Right.
maybe he can relate to the guys at PBA. So this way you don't have to put it on the cops, right?
Yeah, no, that would be, again, creative solutions is what we're after. If you could email me his name, and if you have any contact information, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll
Okay.
figure it out. But thank you for the idea. I'll
And you
definitely do
can
that because I totally
so
forget that there's other unionized labor.
yeah,
other than
we only
NYPD.
have one member there. In any precinct, there's only one of us. So it's hard for them. I don't understand why they don't complain, because that's what the union is supposed to do, is to protect you and put you in a safe environment.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah, and there's more than one civilian, so I wonder if the others, you only have one DC 37 members, but I wonder if there's other
we
unionized
only
labor.
have. I'm of CWA 1180.
Yeah.
Our member is in the precinct, but it's only one of them to each precinct.
Yeah,
You'll
I
find
heard that.
more.
I heard that and I
You'll
understood that. What I'm
Yeah, you
saying
can.
is that there are other civilians in the
Yes.
precinct, and they
Yeah.
might be members of other unions that,
Yes.
we could work with as
True.
And Anthony Wells, he's over 371. He's a fighter, and Henry Garrido, they both fighters fight for their members. So
Okay, yeah,
we
shoot
could
me
go
their
that
names in an
route.
email so that I have it tomorrow when I'm in the office, and I'll pursue that as an idea. And then the idea about retired, I still have the number for the retired, I forget what they called, like the shop steward, or the representative to um, the delegate, I guess,
Yeah, the
in
delegate.
the precinct.
Mhm.
So I can reach out to him and see, what everybody's so worried about and why they wouldn't reach out to the union, PBA.
Thanks, Deborah. Seem like that might be the way to go, Sean.
Yeah, that might be the way to get around it, because if the heads of
Yeah.
the unions can talk, it might can bring something out of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Debs.
Then I
This look
guess I would
really
only ask the co-chairs and anybody else on this call, what else you might want to have presented at the community safety committee meetings, just for future meetings, looking for anything that anybody is curious about, and whether we review the district needs statement, or think about other, maybe after the nonprofit roundtable, other organizations will pop up that would be interesting in the context of this committee. But just trying to make it as broad as possible, although we could always have the 7-0 represented at them all. But, community safety is broad. I think we think of it as policing so often, but I really like the idea of, what keeps their community safe before you need the police to prevent us from needing police action.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Would we be getting someone from the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene? What is it? Mental health and hygiene,
Mental
or
health
mental?
and yeah, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I mean, they usually
Yeah.
present at the Human Services Committee, but we could look for
Yeah.
crossover.
Oh,
Or also, ACS has,
okay.
we think of them
Okay.
under youth, but ACS has a lot of, preventative, like youth violence prevention programs. And then Ozma put
Yeah.
Alternatives to Violence Project in the chat, and maybe, getting more of those
Yeah.
organizations that are cure violence organizations, and just
Oh, yeah.
really try to fill it out.
Hmm.
Maybe some kind of self-defense kind of thing. That would be a fun class to do.
There is this great organization. Annie. It was mostly like a women's self-defense organization. Um, Maybe we could talk to them. Maybe they would even want to come, and we'll do an in-person, like violence prevention, or self-defense training, like
That'd
in
be
person.
great. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, if we're going to
uh,
gather to wrap tourniquets around each other, we might as well
Definitely.
oh, sorry.
grapple.
What's the name of the person again, Asma? The ones that do self-defense. She wrote, can you see Sean? Because I
Yes,
can't. I don't know.
Malika
Malika.
or Malika.
That would be good for folks to be able to know how to do that.
I think we might even have like a big turnout to that.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of people are so scared. I saw a lady today, and she was saying how she's afraid to go out in the streets anymore. And then this other lady, she's saying, "Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like real scary nowadays." So, it's folks would turn out. I believe that,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yep. Okay,
Yep,
then we'll put that one in the works.
definitely. Thank
And then,
you.
and then maybe we could also do something in like sensitivity, like training, like of like culture awareness of like respecting different religions, cultures, whatever, something like that.
I think that's really good too. Yeah, maybe the Human
Yeah,
Rights Commission, and the
yes,
Office for Hate Crime
yes.
Prevention. That would be good. I mean, when I talk to new police officers. It's something that I tell them about, like in a diverse community. The example I like to use is that, the way I was raised, like you make eye contact as a sign of respect. If you're not looking at the person you're talking to, you look a little bit shifty, shady. But there are other cultures where meeting somebody's gaze is a sign of disrespect. So don't always think that just because somebody isn't meeting your gaze means that they're hiding something. And that's just one example. I think a lot of those sort of like cultural cues and cultural competency is definitely exactly what we were just saying, like helps us not need the police.
Yeah. I I think Sean, because when we've met at the board, when we meet the rookies, it, it's been a topic that pretty much across board, everyone. And I think, what do you think, Sean, about the rookies that have been coming in that have been hearing this? Do you see a difference? I think I've
Well,
seen some.
yeah, because I don't know the ones I
Some.
don't know. So it's hard to, sort of
Right,
have a
that's
comparison,
true.
but I definitely see like that sort of like, oh man, well, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Like, people sort of
Yeah,
engage with that as a concept.
acknowledge.
And I'll also say this, Valencia, and it's kind of important for this committee to know. We didn't meet the most recent rookies. When I asked
Yeah,
Detective Nizzi why that was, he said, "Oh yeah, they're not doing that this time. They don't have the budget, or they don't have the time, or they don't have that." And I was like, sort of shook my head at what I see as not a dangerous, but a concerning trend at NYPD, that the level and that the meaningfulness of community engagement seems to be
yeah.
getting a little thin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe it's something to keep an eye on as a committee, and if it's something that we have to advocate for. I mean, the Q teams don't stack up to the NCO program, like not even
True,
close. And
true. And
that's
as
important.
sorry, and as you've said, Sean, that when they're being told, because we're a diverse community, you can see their reaction. There were a few that would say, "Oh, they grew up in this," or they're aware of. But then there were many that were like, "What? This is new." And so why wouldn't they want to have that going? Because what we don't want is to go back to how it used to be, you know,
Right.
that we don't want to,
Yeah, I mean, police community relations are hard to build up and easy to tear down.
True.
that part, that
Everyone just
part.
remembers the last bad thing that someone did. All the good things are.
Yeah.
You're so right, Indy, about that.
But
Yeah.
that's in every
And then,
aspect of life. Yeah. You're just as
yeah,
good as
and
the
another,
last negative.
Yeah. All right. Well,
true.
I'll get on those.
Before
And
we,
Deborah, thanks in advance for
one quick
sharing names. Oh, sorry, Valencia.
One quick thing before we leave. So Hindi and I, we did the women in the DV shelter Mother's Day. And so this year we would like to do something special for them. So we're partnering, and I see Asma is on here. I don't know if Copa would like to join, but we're trying to do something special for them. We spoke to Malka. She's saying that maybe she can provide the space, and we'd like to get them some food and some gift bags. I know um, Congresswoman Clark had donated my family, not Ed, Joe, Hindi, and her daughter. They brought beautiful flowers, and it takes a whole collective. Pastor Thornton also, but I don't know. But this is what we'd like to do. So there's the space. So we need food and we need the gift bags for the mothers. And when I spoke to the shelter director, I think they're about 39 currently. Oh, all right. Thanks, Asma. She said we can count her in. So there you go.
Yeah.
So there are like 39 of them now. And it fluctuates anywhere from 38 to 45. So we would like to do it in June, so we don't know. So, but
Oh,
pretty much, yeah.
you're going to do the
Anyone
event
wants?
in June, not Mother's Day
Mm.
proper.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
too.
not Mother's Day.
It's
Okay.
Okay.
it's too quick to plan, and the
Yeah.
day that Malka had available, I have parent teacher conferences, so I couldn't.
Okay, so let's talk about too, like how to, you know, if you want to write something up to the board that we can send along if you want for additional participation. And also, you know, maybe at the nonprofit roundtable, you can gather additional
Oh,
groups on May
oh,
19th. Um, but speaking of shelters, and it's a very different thing, but May 6th is when the community board will host its, well, Drell will convene a public hearing on a men's shelter that is planned for Flatbush Avenue in the old Vibe Hotel, which is now a Red Roof Inn hotel, right directly across from the King's Theater. So they're
Yeah.
proposing
really?
not even proposing, planning a 130 bed men's shelter. And as you all probably know, there's also a 200 bed men's shelter on the loading dock of the theater.
Yeah.
And then there's also the supportive housing facility also on Duryea Place. So the feeling is that it's just too much, too
Overkill.
close, and all on top
Federate.
of what's supposed to be an
Yeah.
economic development driver, which is the theater. So I think there's going to be, and we're holding the hearing at the King's Theater. So I think it's going to be a well-attended and lively hearing, and it would be good to have as many board members there as possible, whether you want to testify or just be supportive of, you know, the community and, you know, and of the chair. That's a big first hearing to step into.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, I'll count me in because
Yeah,
You can
I
count me in,
think that
Sean. Sean,
the agenda just
tomorrow
went out
I'll send
today.
you the stuff.
What day is May 6th? It's a,
it's a
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
what time is
Okay.
that?
It's
6:30.
not a preparation
Okay.
day.
Count me in.
Okay, good, good.
And tomorrow I'll send you the contacts for 371 and DC 37.
You the best. Thank you
All
very,
right.
very
Have a
much.
good night, y'all. Gotta run.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. And do you think you can make it? Can you
I'm
make
not
it?
sure. I can't, I'm not gonna say yes or no right now. I have to
That's
see.
fair. That's fair. Everybody would have gotten their, you should have gotten your newsletter with the May schedule on it in the mail today. So you
Okay.
can check the whole kit and caboodle for May. A lot happening
I hear you.
as we near the summer.
Yes, I got to, and I will try to make today, and it's been added to my calendar.
That's great. I mean, I'm just so worried because if we just if there's a saturation argument, I certainly don't think that this is a community that's been anti-shelter. I think that
No.
we've embraced the shelters. We haven't had any ugly hearings. We've questioned a couple things about process, but we haven't given this agency any pushback on shelters. And I think this community has worked really well with the shelters in it and on its border. But we can't argue that this is saturation because we technically only have 3 shelters, and like Community District 16 has 16. Community District 5 has double digits as well. Community District 7 has 11. So, you know, the debit, but I think what
Wait,
we're trying to, yep.
Sean, we only have 3. So what about the one on Coney, McDonald's? It's not our.
566 Coney Island Avenue is technically in CB12. That's the one that's on Coney and near Turner, near
Oh,
Beverly.
right.
928 is Community District 14. That's the old Best Western shelter that was originally a
Right.
family shelter for asylum seekers. It was an emergency shelter, so they never had to have a public hearing, but that is there and is now a men's shelter. 21 Duryea Place, the city built that building. They built a homeless shelter instead of a police precinct in our district, but they built that building to be a shelter back in 2020.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then one Kenilworth. That was a controversial shelter because it was supposed to be Canva was going to buy the building and make it a family shelter, but then suddenly, whoop, that got pulled out from under them, and suddenly it's Children's Rescue Fund and they run a woman's shelter. And honestly, we don't get a whole lot of complaints about that. But they also have not engaged with the community. We haven't had a cab at that shelter in a really long time. But those are our three. One Kenilworth, 928 Coney Island Avenue, and 21 Duryea Place. Supportive housing facilities like 19 Duryea Place, 97 Crook, and Morris Manor. Those don't count as shelters, even though I think in the minds of a lot of people in our community, they think of them as such, but they're supportive housing facilities. And then the DV shelters, we don't know. You know where they are because you do a good thing, but technically, we don't know. I don't try to know. Those are proprietary addresses.
Yeah, I got you.
But they are within the district, so technically you could say
They're
like,
not DHS homeless shelters, so they're not, we wouldn't, and they don't have the same sort of community host, say, burden or consequences that shelters have.
but the reason this is saturation is because it's all around the King's Theater, and you're trying to drum in business. If it's all shelters, people are not gonna wanna go to the theater.
Yeah, no, I think that's the argument, is that it places an undue burden on a $90 million economic development investment. I would also argue that if you map where the shelters are, sure, you can say we're trying to evenly distribute them in each community district, but if you look at where they concentrate them, they're concentrated in the Black and brown neighborhoods of those community districts, which is why we only have three, but they're a mile away from the one on the one border and a mile away from the one on, the border with 17 has two shelters. That if you're, average residents don't walk around knowing where their community district boundary lines are. To them, it's the same neighborhood, it's the same community, and that's fair. So I think we are going to try to make a sort of like an economic justice and and a sharing the burden across all demographics, not just across all community districts argument.
Mm.
Yvette has her hand up. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, no,
Also, we're a small group. I think people can just jump in.
yes. Go ahead, Yvette.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good
Um,
evening.
to Sean's point, Sean, is there a map of where we can see where shelters are located, not just across our community district, but others?
I
Is there an
think
accessible map?
kind of. I don't know that there's a map per se. Patricia was looking into some information on open data because actually this is a little bit complicated, and I hope I can explain it well enough. But actually, the Department of Social Services told us that we couldn't use the address when we announced the public hearing. And we argued that we're not allowed to announce a public hearing for a location that's not specific. And so we went back and forth, and our own CB14 Legal Advisory Committee read the case law that DSS was pointing to and determined that the case law didn't really apply to a shelter that doesn't have a census at it yet. The case law seemed to pertain more to an individual, the same way that I, as an agency privacy officer, I'm not allowed to divulge, like if somebody complains about something, I'm not allowed to divulge any identifying information unless given specific approval or to do so. So DSS was trying to kind of pull that and then said, for the safety of people who'll be residing in those shelters and for their privacy, we shouldn't be providing the address. Well, we went ahead and put the address on the on the public hearing notice, but we are trying to be respectful of what they think is the rule that they have to adhere to and how we see it. So that was a long answer, Yvette. I'm sorry. I said out loud the ones I know about in our district, but I don't know that there's a source that would map them, and DSS certainly won't map them because they think that there's a privacy and safety issue at hand in terms of identifying specific locations.
Okay. Have they shared with us kind of like some of the shelter parameters? Like, is this a shelter where at a certain time in the morning, all of the residents have to exit the shelter and can only be allowed entry back at a certain time in the evening? So then
Those
that
are the
means
kind,
a lot
yeah,
of
those are the kind of details
outside.
that they usually reveal at the public hearing itself and not in the notification to the community board, because the provider will answer those questions, whereas DSS is the one who notifies us to the location. So that I think will all be discussed on May 6th. And the borough commissioner who told me about it and told me that the notice was forthcoming, said that she thinks that this is a really good provider. So that's pretty good news, but I don't know what a very good provider does in a location that has the sort of friction with the supportive housing facility and hasn't really been a great provider. The Black Vets for Social Justice shelter has been very problematic, like very. And so if you're a good provider, then maybe the argument is to them, like, if you're a good provider, you don't want to risk your reputation by providing services next to a provider that's been problematic, because,
They
it's,
get confused.
yeah.
Sean, may I ask you a question? What do you think? What I've noticed, like in our Black and Brown communities, whenever they put up those hotels, after a while they become shelters.
Yeah, I mean, when it's a crisis and you've got a location that can be used for congregate housing, the hotels become, easy. And you offer these hotels that are only getting so many patrons per month, a very well-resourced contract. It's tempting for the hotel owners to go ahead and take the contract instead of fighting for their market share of customers. I mean, I don't know who was staying in the Best Western on Coney Island Avenue and Webster. Like, there's not a huge draw for tourists, so maybe it's people who had family in the area and not enough room to put their family up. The Vibe Hotel was not a good business neighbor. The type of business that was going on there was maybe, I mean, I don't know if the family shelter was maybe an improvement for a while. But look, hotels could only go in weird places in the city because of zoning. And even though I rarely speak fondly of the city of Yes and so the zoning text amendment for hotels, maybe that will sort itself out. But that's why the hotels, I mean, I think there's a real cynical point of view that people think that they build hotels in order to turn them into shelters. And I don't know that I think that that's what happened. People built hotels hoping to run hotels and could only build them where they were zoned and allowable. And then they didn't fill them up with customers. And then this $97 million contract comes along.
Mm.
And we don't want the city pouring a lot of capital dollars into building shelters when, I mean, I think, we want the need to lessen for shelters.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yes.
I'm concerned because, DHS doesn't tell you that they're thinking about doing something. They tell you that this is what they're going to do.
Right.
There's already contract.
So do you think it makes a difference that we're having this hearing at all? Like,
I guess I'd like to try to manage expectations, but it's better to have the hearing and make the concerns known than to let it be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And there have been, there are some cases where things have been put on hold.
okay.
So, and the theater is looking at what their economic development like what EDC, promised when they sunk $90 million of taxpayer money into developing the King's Theater, and then turned it over to a private contractor to run the business.
Oh wow.
Marty Markowitz should show up to save the theater again.
Right? Where is he, Sean?
Invite him. Invite him.
Sure. Where is he? He lives in Brooklyn. He's retired.
I know.
Well,
I haven't seen him
I think
so
he would
long.
go. I think he would come.
Been kicking.
He is. I see he and Jamie once in a while. I'll invite him, Hindi.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I went on a bit.
Thanks.
Sorry. It's been
No,
swimming in my
it was
head.
good.
This was
So,
an interesting meeting. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad. It was a nice meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, could we,
Thanks, everyone.
all right, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Feel good.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for showing up and participating.
Yes. Good night.
Mhm.